Muhammad Ali, a boxer. Michael J. Fox, an actor. Janet Reno, the Attorney General of the United States. And me, a high school principal. What could we all possibly have in common? Well, we do, and we have it in common with 1 million other Americans. We have Parkinson's disease.
So it's really just a very exciting time about understanding the disease, but therefore translating that understanding into more and better therapies, and hopefully at least slow, if not stop, the progression of the disease.
And tomorrow, I leave for Cleveland, Ohio to get a procedure called DBS accomplished, Deep Brain Stimulation.
Sandra Ransel is principal of Desert Rose High School located in North Las Vegas, Nevada. Desert Rose is an alternative high school for students who need a second chance to earn their high school diploma. Under Ransel's leadership, Desert Rose has produced 5,000 graduates since 2001. Among her many accomplishments, earning a PhD in education and winning a Nevada Education Hall of Fame 2011 Unsung Hero Award. In 1976, she married Air Force officer Dennis Ransel. In the following years, they traveled extensively as Dennis's military career took them far from home. A highlight of this travel was an opportunity for Sandra to pursue her love of snow skiing in the Italian Alps. Today, their extended family includes 2 sons and a granddaughter, Stella. Dr. Ransel has succeeded in her personal life and education career while waging a 20-year battle against Parkinson's, a chronic, progressive disease that kills brain cells.
I started noticing that something was wrong when I went to step over a piece of chain link fence, and my husband said, after I fell flat on my face, said, "Why didn't you pick up your feet?" And I said, "Well, I did." And he said, "No, you didn't." On turning around after the baseball game and going over the same fence, I did the same thing, fell flat on my face. He said, "You got to pick up your feet." That was the first hint that something was wrong. I was not connecting, my mind was not connecting to my body in getting over a simple small fence. And then I noticed my hand shaking. I thought it was moving from very hot temperature outside to an inside air-conditioned car or a building, as I was just beginning to be a school administrator and I was out supervising a lot. And my hand would shake. And it sometimes would shake while I was shifting the car, and I thought, this is very strange. And those were the first 2 hints.
In addition to shaky hands, balance problems, and sore, stiff muscles, Parkinson's symptoms include something called freezing.
Freezing, that's like when you're walking and all of a sudden your whole body just stops and you essentially have forgotten how to put one foot in front of another. These things at first started out to be very small problems, but then they gradually became more decapacitating.
While the cause of Parkinson's is not fully known, medical science is closing in on the answer. Dr. Ryan Walsh is Parkinson's disease director for the Cleveland Clinic in Las Vegas.
The best estimate now is that there's a combination of spontaneous genetic mutations, not inherited, although that can rarely happen. These seem to occur spontaneously that increase someone's risk for developing Parkinson's disease, specifically because they increase the ability of the cells in their brain to die.
Parkinson's usually strikes people age 60 and older, but it can afflict much younger men and women. There is no cure, but symptoms can be reduced with medication that simulates dopamine and other hormones that healthy bodies produce to control muscle movement. The medications can produce negative side effects like upset stomachs and nightmares while sleeping. And over time, as the disease progresses, the symptoms get worse. Medications become less effective, and falling is a major concern. Sandra Ransel calls her Parkinson's battle a case of shake, rattle, and roll, and recalls her search for understanding and help.
So the next stop was the medical library, and I looked up all the things that could cause tremors and problems with walking and movement. And the list was very frightening. I call this the shake, rattle, and roll. The first thing that I noticed was the shake of my hand. Then the rattle is the feeling that I had right down to my soul that something was wrong, and it just rattled me. It just made you feel like something was going to happen and you didn't know what it was and you didn't have any control over it. I looked up in the books to see what could cause these kinds of symptoms, and the list was very frightening, to say the least. In fact, Parkinson's disease was one of the things that wasn't as bad as some of the others. There was ALS, and there was MS, and there were brain tumors. So I took my list and I went to another neurologist, and he went down the list with me and he said, you know, I think maybe Parkinson's disease is the thing that you're describing. But we only can tell that by trying medication. If it works, that's what you've got. If it doesn't work, we'll have to go back to the list. So I tried the medications, which replace the dopamine, and carbidopa, levodopa, and certainly it did help the symptoms, and so we had our diagnosis. The next thing was that I had to decide how to handle it. I think I read a lot of romance novels and I ate a lot of chocolate ice cream for about 3 days, kind of avoiding the situation. And then I went into my medical mode, where I read all the bottles, all the pill bottles, and all the warning labels, and I read everything I could find out on Parkinson's, which really kind of was a depressing part of it. And then I finally said, well, this little gargoyle is going to be with me for a long time. It's going to sit on my shoulder, and it's going to scratch into my arm, and it's going to make me feel like it's after me, or I can get a hold of it. And that was the time when I decided I was either going to roll up and just kind of hide, or was I going to roll with the punches and get busy. And up until then, my life had been pretty uncomplicated. But now it was time for the work.
Hello, I'm Bob Clark, the producer of this program. I too have Parkinson's disease, but after 4 years, fortunately, my symptoms are still fairly mild and my medication is effective. But like all Parkinson's patients, I look forward to the day when this disease can be stopped or even cured. And the battle that Dr. Ransel is waging against Parkinson's is most encouraging.
Well, Parkinson's is going through a very exciting time because we know more now, even than we did 5 or 10 years ago, about why the disease starts to begin with, how it spreads in the brain, how we can do a better job, hopefully slowing or stopping that progression, how we can do a better job controlling the disease symptoms, and how we can do a better job using DBS.
Now let's take a close look at Sandra Ransel's decision to have a type of brain surgery that offers hope to millions of people with Parkinson's and other brain disorders such as epilepsy and Alzheimer's disease.
An event happened. It was in December, and we were getting ready for Christmas, and I was cooking in the kitchen, and I just lost my balance, and I put my arm out to block a fall, and I broke my shoulder and my arm and my wrist. And I knew that something was wrong. The orthopedic surgeon trussed me up like a Christmas turkey and said, let's see if a natural healing will work. Well, we tried natural healing, and I went to a therapist who tried to move my arm, and he turned the same color that I did. Both of us turned white. And he said, I don't think I'm going to do that. But that was a sign that the gargoyle on my shoulder that was Parkinson's was starting to really bite into the muscle. and it was muscling into my life a little bit too much. So I talked to my doctor, Dr. Walsh, who was with the Brain Center here in Las Vegas, and asked him what our next step was, because I knew that we needed to do something pretty dramatic. I was starting to fall for no reason. I was freezing and unable to walk for no apparent reason, and then the next minute I would be just fine. So he said it was time for something dramatic.
DBS surgery is done in 2 parts or procedures.
What we do initially is we have the patient undergo a surgical procedure where you have to drill a hole in the skull in order to get access to certain areas of the brain. And then you carefully insert an electrode down into a pre-specified target in the brain, of which there are several. And in doing this, you listen actually very carefully to the cells of the brain as you descend through them, because they have characteristic firing patterns that you can hear. Once you get to the right area, by combination of listening to the cells as you descend through the brain, and in combination with what's called stereotaxis, where you know where you are in 3-dimensional space, you can get within a millimeter or 2 of exactly where you want it to be on average. Then you undergo another procedure where you hook up that electrode to a wire that gets tunneled under the skin, down behind the ear, and goes down into a battery that's implanted underneath the skin in the chest. Very similar to the procedure that people undergo to put a pacemaker in. And it's actually a modified version of a pacemaker battery that is most commonly used. And then once this pacemaker battery is hooked up through this wire to the electrode that sits in the brain, you can then interact using essentially a remote control that can tell the battery in the chest what to do. There are a number of different variables we control: how much electricity goes through the wire, the frequency of that electricity, how long each pulse of electricity is given. And by controlling these different variables, along with controlling what parts of the electrode that's in the brain that we use, we can essentially have that region of the brain interact in a better way with other brain regions, and that in turn minimizes the symptoms of Parkinson's disease.
I interviewed Dr. Ransel a few days before her DBS surgery at the Cleveland Clinic, one of the largest and most respected hospitals in the country. The main hospital is in Cleveland, Ohio, and there are many other Cleveland clinics located throughout the world, including this one in Las Vegas, Nevada. As she faced brain surgery, Dr. Ransel talked of her desire to be proactive and honest about her Parkinson's symptoms.
One way of dealing with this kind of a disease is to hide from it and pretend it doesn't exist and hope it'll go away. But in the long run, that's not a very good choice. It's very difficult to be honest about something like this. It's like you're predicting your own demise or predicting something dark is going to happen. And I've looked at it as something that you could measure yourself by the way you managed it. And it's been manageable for me. I've had good doctors, but you really have to take care of yourself. And I think maybe talking to some other people, talking to someone about what happens and how to handle it, it might be helpful. I think it's helpful to know that being honest about it and saying, oh, don't worry, my hand just shakes, I'm not nervous or unhappy or worried, might make people feel a little bit better about understanding your situation and understanding a person who has Parkinson's situation, so that you wouldn't feel that you were embarrassing someone by offering them a hand if they look like they're having trouble getting a door open. I know I work in a school and my students know that I deal with this, and they are right there to open a door, to carry a bag in for me. And I don't I don't say no. I don't try to be a hero.
The surgery went well, and then began an intense period of rest and recovery. Sandra and Dennis left for Las Vegas in mid-December of 2012, and Dennis captured this departing moment on his video camera.
I got a video going, so why don't you walk a little bit towards me. Here we are leaving. Sandy just got the brain stimulator turned on, and so here she goes. Walk towards me now. There you go. Look at this. That's something. Fresh off a newly started stimulator. Deep Brain Stimulator.
Although her DBS surgery is now over, it takes several weeks for Dr. Ransel's brain to recover from the trauma. In the meantime, her implanted stimulator is turned off and her Parkinson symptoms remain. She is confident the DBS will work when she gets the stimulator turned on and adjusted from Dr. Walsh. Meanwhile, in our second interview, she talks about the surgery which left her temporarily bald.
They decide that they should have a full operating view. They do 3 incisions as part of the surgery, and they're in different locations on the head. And it's just safer to have a clear view without hair interrupting it. So you just wake up with a huge bandage on your head and a big headache and no hair. They decided to do both sides of the brain at the same time, and I would be under anesthesia for a lengthy period. So they decided that the best way would be to have me totally asleep, and then we'll go through the checking the connection process in a few weeks here, so that we can determine what will work best for me to help me with moving and not moving, just to have more of a normal existence. They're called leads, and they're wires basically, and they come from the head and then they come down the side. And if you can see, they come down the side of my head by my ear on the right side, and then they come into a computer pack on my shoulder. That's what's buried in the shoulder. Well, the medications that I've been on for the past 20 years, we're starting to have a narrower and narrower parentheses or spacing as far as affecting me in a positive way. So I hope to be able to use the medications better. I hope to have more energy for walking and being able to stay on a straight path and stay upright. Certainly every patient hopes that some of the pain that's involved with this will subside, and I hope that my fine motor ability to handwrite, work on the computer, will be improved. They tell us that their interviews with patients who've had the DBS, Deep Brain Stimulation therapy, that they have about a 70% improvement. Only a few percent of the population that has had this procedure says they wouldn't do it again. And I am hoping certainly to be in the population that says this made a difference, and because it will.
After our interview, she visited some Desert Rose students and staff.
Dr. Ransel is a very amazing woman, very strong woman.
Why do you say that?
I can't imagine what she's gone through, but I think she's an inspiration to everybody down here, what she's gone through and how strong she is to try to control the problem that she has.
Her therapy continued with regular visits to Dr. Walsh to adjust the stimulator signals to her brain. By April, the Parkinson symptoms were noticeably improved.
Shortly after the surgery, she came to my clinic in a wheelchair. And then, as you can see in her exam today, although she's certainly not perfect, she's remarkably improved, but with still likely further improvement to be had, especially with this particular kind of stiffness called rigidity.
7 months after surgery, Dennis and Sandra review how far she has progressed. Her hair has grown out, and her shake, rattle, and roll are under control.
And I can say right now that my handwriting has returned. My hands are stable. My feet are stable. The shaking is gone. But I still have some of the same symptoms I have to work with. The freezing still attacks me every once in a while, and I have to be careful not to do any quick movements. I don't crawl on ladders, and I don't think I'm going to take up ice skating anytime soon. But I do thoroughly expect to go back to skiing. I just am cautioned by the doctor that I'll have to wear a helmet. And I think I can adjust to things like that.
She credits her family for their support throughout her struggles with Parkinson's, especially the love and dedication of her husband Dennis, and granddaughter Stella too, for helping keep her spirits up during her long recovery from surgery.
My 2-year-old grandchild showed me the way on a number of things. She showed me to take little steps and to watch for the positive. She would bring me a pile of Kleenexes and say, "Here, Grandma, this will make you feel better." And she would stop playing and with her toys or doing something special to help me. And she seemed to sense that. And this pointed out to me the fact that your support system is very, very important to you when you're dealing with Parkinson's disease. It's better not to keep it a secret. It's better to be very open with people about it, and also to accept help and to watch for the good things. Stella taught me to watch for the fun little things. She would bring me cookies that were slightly nibbled on, and Kleenexes, and I got covered up with lots of dolly blankets. And she talked to me. She would rather help me than play with her toys.
Costs and insurance are major considerations for those who choose DBS. The surgery costs average between $30,000 and $100,000 and even more in some cases. Most of the fees are often covered by Medicare and private insurance.
And it's just important to keep in mind it's brain surgery. It's a lot easier to take a pill than it is to operate on the brain. But for the right patient at the right time, for the right reasons, it can be a remarkably effective therapy.
In our final interview, Dr. Ransel expressed confidence that DBS is a big step in the direction of finding cures to brain diseases such as MS, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's disease.
And I'm on the mend. Everything is back in working order. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's getting better every day. I was able to walk down the aisle and lead my graduating seniors in their graduation ceremony. And I knew that if I stumbled or if I lost my footing, there would be a helping hand right there for me. And it's a better day. And this cutting-edge surgery really made the difference for me. And I would certainly encourage people to take charge of the disease rather than let it take charge of them. You've got a long life to live, and you can make it a very quality life and work your way around the disease instead of letting it work you. I expect that this surgery will improve my life dramatically over the next 20 years. I believe that the surgery itself will change, continue to improve the way I walk, the way I move, and the way I handwrite over the next few years for sure. And then I think I'll reach a plateau where there'll always be a little bit of the disease, but I think I will have conquered the biggest parts of it that limit me. And the surgery was certainly worth it in the time and the energy, and I'm really glad that I had good insurance to cover the cost, but I think I'm a good investment.
I'm Bob Clark reporting for BC Productions of Las Vegas, Nevada.